Time now for your forecast first. WRBL News 3 First Alert Weather.
Going live right now to the Phoenix City Amphitheater camera. Beautiful shot, isn't it? And these temperatures, 95 right now. So just like yesterday, but we're just a degree hotter around town. And then you have that humidity. So we look at these conditions with the northwest breeze. It doesn't do too much, let me tell you. So taking a peek, you can see temperatures in the mid-90s, a string of them from Stewart County to Omaha, all the way down to Eufaula and Columbus. And then you factor in the humidity in the shade. We start getting heat index values, almost 100 in Columbus, 100 in Eufaula, Fort Gaines 100. So here we are. Summer, bottom line. I mean, this is not unusual, but it's time to start preparing and looking ahead. So even overnight low feel-like readings are going to be the same, awfully warm, which could pose a risk to those who are elderly or have some health difficulties out there. And as far as that first alert forecast is for the rest of tonight at a glance, with the mid-90s now, we're still very warm right through midnight with mostly clear skies. The rest of that forecast and talk about rain chances coming up. The news starts right now.
On your side, this is News 3 First Edition.
3 people killed in a shooting in a Walmart parking lot in East Alabama. Officials there calling the incident a murder-suicide.
We want to solve family separation. I don't want children taken away from parents.
President Trump meeting with House Republicans to find a solution to the family separation crisis at the border. Good afternoon, everyone. We thank you for trusting News 3. I'm Phil Scoggins. This afternoon, we are following a developing story out of Tallahassee, Alabama. 3 people were killed in a shooting at a Walmart parking lot this morning. Officials on the scene calling it a murder-suicide. Tallahassee Mayor Johnny Hammock says a man, the alleged shooter, rammed his car into another car in the Walmart parking lot on Gilmer Avenue. He says the man then got out, shot and killed 2 women in the car he rammed, firing several shots into the car. The man then turned the gun on himself. One of the victims died on the scene. The second was found in critical condition, but died before a medical helicopter that was en route to the scene could reach her. Officials have now identified the victims as 58-year-old Tricia Miller, 75-year-old Barbara Buttles, 65-year-old Harold Miller died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. News 3 digging deeper today into yesterday afternoon's deadly shooting on 3rd Avenue. The victim now joins an unfortunate list of others who make up this year's homicide list. News 3's Michaela Singleton joining us now with input from the coroner's office. Michaela joining us here in the studio.
Well, Phil, yesterday's scene on 3rd Avenue is one that unfortunately the Columbus community is all too familiar with. Yesterday, just after 5 p.m., 26-year-old Jermaine Williams was found shot just past the intersection with 6th Street. He was rushed to Columbus Regional, where he was later pronounced dead. Coroner Buddy Bryan and law enforcement confirmed the victim appears to have been arguing with another man for quite a while before the shots rang out. Bryan tells me it's obviously unlikely that this 18th homicide of the year will be the last, but without witnesses willing to come forward, the perpetrator and others like him will continue to be a danger to others in the community.
Tell what you know. You can do it anonymously, and that's the only way we're going to help reduce the crime rate, especially the homicide rate here in Columbus, is by getting those people that are guilty off the street and incarcerated.
Bryan continues that based on the numbers so far this year, Columbus is on track to either match or exceed last year's total 44 homicides. Now, if you're confused, because we have reported several different crime totals throughout the year, homicides are considered any death at the hands of another person. That includes homicide by vehicle, accidental shootings, self-defense attacks, and murder. However, the Columbus Police Department reports only 35 murders for 2017, which are classified by charges and malicious intent. We'll have more clarification and details on the 3rd Avenue shooting on our website, WRBL.com. Phil.
Thanks, Michaela. On the Crime Watch this afternoon, the West Point Police Department says the second of 3 men wanted in connection with a murder last week is now behind bars. The suspect in the death of Reggie Pearson surrendered to police. Eric Bridges turned himself in yesterday. Another suspect, Octavius Bridges, was arrested last week. Trent Murphy is still on the run. Pearson was found dead on a porch last Thursday in West Point. Police believe drugs were involved. If you have any information on where to find Murphy, you are asked to call West Point Police. Opelika police still searching for answers in the disappearance and the death of an Alabama man. Police say Andrew James Barnett Jr. disappeared from Opelika on June 17, 2004. Police found his remains behind Bennett's Trailer Park in the 1300 block of South Long Street in September of 2016. If you have any information in this case, you are asked to call the Opelika Police Department's Detective Division. That number on your screen, 334-705-5220. Making news this afternoon, the Troup County Sheriff's Office now searching for a missing man. Take a look at 58-year-old Larry Dean Mallory. Officials say that Mallory was last seen on Wednesday evening at his home on Mallory Drive. At the time, Mallory was seen driving the blue Chevrolet truck that you see here in this photo. If you see Mallory or the truck, you are asked to call the Troup County Sheriff's Office, or you can simply dial 911. Across Georgia, a Cobb County police officer behind bars after being arrested for allegedly assaulting a mentally disabled woman. Robert New is accused of slapping and strangling the woman during sexual intercourse in March. Officials say the woman has a mental capacity of 10 to 14 years old. New also sent text messages to the woman, calling her disparaging names and telling her, quote, "I am in charge, I am in control." The text messages were dated March 31st. New is facing a misdemeanor charge of simple battery and a felony charge of aggravated assault. Alabama's largest electrical utility is quitting a business group that tries to influence policy and politics in Montgomery. Alabama Power is leaving the Business Council of Alabama in a disagreement over its leadership, among other issues. The Business Council released a letter in response to Alabama Power's move, saying the utility hasn't been a member since April because of non-payment of dues. The letter also says the organization is working on a plan to hire a new CEO. Across America today, President Trump sending out best wishes for Juneteenth celebrations. The president's press secretary released a statement on his behalf today. It said, as we count, it says, as a country, we would, quote, never forget the millions of African Americans who suffered the evils of slavery, end quote. Nearly 200,000 former enslaved and free African Americans fought for liberty alongside the Union Army during the Civil War. Juneteenth, Independence Day, highlights particularly June 19th of 1865. On that day, a Union Army general declared the end of the Civil War and that all remaining slaves were free. In his message, President Trump said, quote, we recommit ourselves to defending the self-evident truth boldly declared by our founding fathers that all people are created equal. Also making news across America, the Trump administration bracing for another day of questions about its zero-tolerance policy, which has led to separating children from parents who illegally cross the border. President Trump is meeting with House Republicans to talk about immigration this afternoon. The White House insists the solution has to come from Congress, and President Trump is pinning the blame squarely on the shoulders of Democrats. Texas Republican Ted Cruz is working on a solution for the Senate side. He's introducing a bill that would reunite separated families, authorize new temporary shelters to house them, and double the number of federal immigration judges to work through a backlog of asylum requests.
All of us who are seeing these images of children being pulled away from moms and dads in tears, we're horrified. This has to stop.
The president has previously said that he would sign only immigration bills that address his 4 pillars, mainly money to build the wall, finding a fix for DACA, ending family-based immigration, and ending the visa lottery program. House Republicans have 2 bills that would address all 4 of the president's needs, but so far they do not have enough support within the Republican Party to pass either one of those bills. Making news also today, the flooding in the upper Midwest has left at least 1 person dead. In Wisconsin, the Ashley County Sheriff's Office confirms the body of 75-year-old Thomas Kepper was found about 60 feet away from his pickup truck, where the floodwaters were more than 6 feet deep. In Illinois, meanwhile, another man lucky to be alive, a group of people made a daring rescue to get him out of his car. That rescue was caught on video. Andrew Spencer gives us a look.
Dad, be careful! Brianna Pickett posted this video on Facebook of her dad Mark and several other people in Rockford, Illinois, working to free a man trapped inside his car. Minutes later, the driver emerges, there in the green shirt, and as the men climb off the back of the car, the front end quickly sinks into the water.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!
The flooding in Illinois follows that in Wisconsin and on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Heavy downpours opened sinkholes and washed out roads, prompting disaster declarations from the governors of both states.
The Wisconsin Department of Transportation is going to work with local highway commissioners and public works departments to make sure we get roads moving.
Crews have a lot of work to do fixing roads as heavily damaged as this one in Houghton, Michigan. And if you think the destructive power of nature is impressive, you're not the only one. Some people in northern Wisconsin took the lighthearted approach of getting a better look. I'm Andrew Spencer reporting.
Just ahead here on First Edition, some tips for buying a home if you don't have a lot of money for a down payment. Plus, later on in our Health Watch report, a recall involving veggies that you need to know about. As always, the best way you can stay connected with us here at WRBL, just like and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the latest breaking news, sports, and weather. Bob.
Phil, there you go. And right now we're looking at some light showers popping up to the north of Columbus. You can see they're going north to south. Not strong, but again, watch for possible lightning. We haven't been seeing much in news viewing here in that regard. But they seem to build, then they just kind of shrink down. So it's a very stable air mass, but summer-like. That means there's a lot of heat to deal with coming up.
Happening now in Auburn, there are efforts underway to find jobs for the hundreds of employees laid off from the Master Brand Cabinet Company. This afternoon, there is a job fair to help those employees impacted, and that is where we find News 3's Ashley Garrett with the latest. Ashley.
Right now I'm in the gymnasium of the Auburn Junior High School, where, as you can see behind me, this place is packed with people. This is an effort that's being put on by the City of Auburn's Workforce Development Division. Now, as we go to video now, I'll tell you more about this job fair that's happening now. Representatives say when they learned of the massive layoff, they immediately began reaching out to area industries to help find positions for the more than 400 people impacted. Carrie Cox, the Workforce Development Director, says it's great to see the entire community coming together in this critical time for those who lost their jobs. Back out here live now, those planning to attend the job fair need to be prepared to fill out applications and also interview for available positions. Right now, I'll send things back to you in the studio live in Auburn, and on your side, I'm Ashley Garrett for WRBL News 3.
All right, thank you, Ashley, for that live report.
Now, News 3 brings you your first alert forecast.
Would it be safe to say the weather is boring? Not really, because there's a lot of elements to it that could be inflammatory in a sense when it comes to heat stroke or maybe heat exhaustion. But it is when it comes to a sluggish pattern. And when that happens, you know the heat is on this time of year. And then you factor in all this humidity that's kind of lifting in from the Gulf of Mexico. But look at this persistent area, a trough or elongated area low pressure, has been bringing in this consistent thunderstorm activities, subtropical moisture. You get the picture. In areas too familiar with Harvey a year ago. We're talking about Houston, Galveston, we're talking about Bolivar Island, the outer barrier areas here, all the way down into central Texas. Nobody wants to see that. I mean, it's not that bad. I don't want to exaggerate this picture, but it is going to be persistent. It's going to be a nuisance, and it will create some flooding issues there. Closer to home, though, let's take a look at what happened here with some sunsets that we had last night. Were just absolutely spectacular. Dave Kerr captured this. You'll have another good one tonight with these clouds that are around. Most of them have fair weather, but we can actually see a couple showers and maybe even a straight pop-up storm. That's what we've been talking about. So we're at 95 degrees right now, and with that added humidity, it's almost 99, the heat index value, if not 100 in many locations. So as we stand, that is our high. We had a low of 75 this morning. Almost 3 3/4 of an inch of rainfall for the month, and you can see for the year at 26.96 inches, where, as Phil pointed out last night, he goes, Bob, this is crazy, where most of it occurred in the month of May, which is typically dry. When you look at it climatologically speaking, May is usually our driest time, and it happened to be one of our wettest months this year. But it seems like, well, we're back into summer now, where you have the traditional dry days, unless something, won't jinx it, subtropical or tropical comes in the region. I say that with some intrepidation. Heat index values are going to be the story. Just a friendly reminder, check on those that you know. Be a good neighbor. This is a perfect time to make sure that the Mrs. or the Mr. or somebody who might be living by themselves, elderly, might be in poor health. This is a kind of weather, even if they don't have the proper circulation, even though they're not outside. That heat at night, look at these readings that feel like they're still in the upper 70s and 80s. They can't cool their bodies down. Did you know that your heart has to pump extra hard to cool itself down? And that's when we get into some issues with people who have respiratory disorders or heart disease, and the elderly especially, and children too. 76 and muggy in the overnight low. We get into that forecast for midweek Wednesday. A stray storm, broken record, that's right. Tropic of Capricorn, the sun north of it will be at its highest point this year. And you know what that means? It means summer at 6:07 a.m. Eastern time occurs Thursday morning. And then we have a stray storm or two. Isolated storms on Friday, Saturday. Phil, that's a ramp up from what we had. And then we begin to see that dry period again. So we'll watch for that. I also want to give a shout out for Just for Kids yesterday. Meteorologist Jeff Kelly gave them a little shout out. They came here to News 3 Studio. 6 to 11-year-old kids. And they asked such great pointed questions. They behaved so well. It was a pleasure to have them here. So I just wanted to say hello. So I had to squeeze in and say thank you.
Put a smile on your face.
Yeah, they're great kids.
Thank you, Bob. In our Consumer Watch this afternoon, for many first-time homeowners, coming up with the money for the down payment can be the most difficult part of the process. But experts say there are several programs available right now to get you into a house with zero or very low out-of-pocket costs. The days of putting down at least 20% of the price of a home are over. Real estate experts say that there are many options to put down much less or even nothing at all. Here are some of the options to consider. Try an FHA loan through the Federal Housing Administration. It requires less money down and lighter credit history requirements. If you are a veteran, you can take advantage of VA loans, which require no money down.
If you've ever been in the military and you're renting, I highly suggest you contact a real estate agent or a lender or both and find out what your situation is, what you can buy a house for in your area.
Experts also recommend checking down payment assistance options available in your state, like housing grants. There are also conventional low down payments insured by the federal government. When we return here on First Edition, if you recently bought a veggie tray, it might make you sick. Stay with News 3. We're going to have some more information on that for you straight ahead. In today's Health Watch report, Del Monte is recalling several batches of fresh-cut vegetable trays in the wake of a parasite outbreak. The products may be linked to the Cyclospora parasite that sickened 78 people in several Midwestern states. Del Monte is voluntarily recalling 6-ounce, 12-ounce, and 28-ounce veggie trays containing broccoli, cauliflower, carrot, celery, and dill dip. They were sold, by the way, in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The FDA is investigating that outbreak. Fewer Americans are smoking than ever before. The latest estimates from the CDC show about 14% of all U.S. adults smoke cigarettes. That's the lowest level recorded since tracking began back in 1965. Researchers also found people living in a large metropolitan area of population smoke significantly less than people who live in rural areas of our country. A new study finds warning labels on sugary drinks are leading to fewer purchases of the high-calorie beverages. Harvard University researchers found that labels with photos linking sugary drinks to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and tooth decay helped convince people to substitute bottled water. That's going to be a final check of that forecast. Actually, we'll have it for you in a few minutes. First, though, we're going to take a look at what's coming up later tonight right here on WRBL.
Clearly today's heat. Chief photographer Kevin Roble went out and showed you the radiation off the pavement. And that's the key here. That's where the heat comes into play. Look at this jogger here. I'm sure she was hydrating the right way. You know your own body, and you know how to take frequent breaks. That's the kind of days we're going to be in. And light-fitted clothing, usually light-colored and loose, and that helps keep you cool as well. Here's another thing. Think about a vehicle inside a car like that one there. If you're left it unattended without the AC on, that same principle where you see the pavement radiating here downtown on Front Avenue, the same thing happens in a car from the steering wheel, the dashboard. That's why it becomes so dangerous. The heat in there intensifies.
Be careful out there. We're still 2 days away from official summer.
That's right. And we're 95, right on schedule. Meteorologically speaking, Phil, we're here.
We're back at the top of the hour for Evening Edition. Stay tuned, won't you?